At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Welcome to the Ankler Podcast. This is Sean McNulty of the Wake Up Newsletter here at the Ankler here on the Jersey Shore on Thursday, October 17th. Elaine is not with us today due to a tennis-related endeavor, David, and that's not actually me making a joke. She's actually at a real tennis thing, right, David?
Yeah, I think so, but don't ask me for any details. But yeah, she's missed, but yeah.
Trust me, that's as far into tennis as I go here. So, Elaine, we wish you the best wherever you are in your big tennis endeavor today. That, of course, is David Litsky here joining me on the East Coast and Richard Rushfield on the West Coast. Richard, what food are you making for the big Netflix earnings call today? What do you got cooking?
My traditional 6-bean dip there. I have the whole gang come over and, we can do a tailgate party beforehand and, gets a little crazy if it really goes long. So
6-bean
watching
dip.
that countdown on the YouTube for when
exactly. Until
they put up the call.
Yes, it goes live on YouTube. It's quite a moment.
But, be careful driving after that ends, because a lot of people are going to be getting on the streets.
Gets pretty crazy out there. Yeah, taking down goalposts and marching in the streets there, for the team.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Anyway, we're recording here on Thursday in the mid-afternoon. The Netflix earnings call is happening at about an hour and a half or so. So I'll have the full wrap-up tomorrow on the Wake Up and Friday's edition there at theankler.com. You can check that out. But we're going to touch on some Netflix stuff a little later on today. But we have a special guest. We have a new contributor here at The Ankler, Lachlan Cartwright. Lachlan, welcome to the pod.
G'day, good to be here.
You had quite a read this week, all about a topic that's getting a lot of focus here in election season. That is not the election itself, thankfully, but rather what's going on at CNN, particularly in regards to what's the plan here, everybody. It's new leader Mark Thompson has been in the chief executive role for pretty much almost a year at this point, taking over from the brief Chris Licht reign, who took over from Jeff Zucker, of course, who had a rather different approach to anchor talent, I think it's safe to say, especially in regards to how much he paid them, Lachlan. So as Richard Rushfield always tells me to do, start with the money. Flat is the new up at CNN. What's going on? What'd you find out this week?
Yeah, that's correct. Mark Thompson has come into CNN and inherited a lot of big talent deals that Jeff Zucker put the likes of Jake Tapper under and Wolf Blitzer and Chris Wallace. And a lot of these deals are coming up around election time. And so he is having to negotiate with some pretty big egos who are being slightly bruised by the fact that, as one top agent said, as you alluded to, that flat is the new up. So I learned that Jake Tapper, for instance, has re-signed a new 3-year deal, but is staying at around $7 million. So no increase for him. And the same goes for Wolf Blitzer, who's also re-upped for around $3 million, which was the same amount he had been on previously. John Berman, who previously hosted New Day, their big breakfast show that no longer exists and is now a three-header News Central. He is re-upped around 1.5. So also staying steady. The person that's going to take a big haircut, if he does decide to stay, is Chris Wallace, who was brought over on a pretty massive payday of around $8.5 million, sources tell me. And he was ostensibly brought over for CNN Plus. And we know what happened there. That was blown up shortly after Chris Licht took over. And so Chris Wallace has been relegated to a weekend show. He's also hosting a streaming show, but certainly not delivering the value that someone under that amount of money would be expected to. So he has an offer out, sources tell me, and that is at a reduced figure from the 8.5. Other top talent, such as Anderson Cooper, who my understanding is on around 18 million, isn't up until 2026.
Wow, that's what Richard makes, I think, right? Richard, Anderson Cooper? Do you have the same agent?
I thought that's what all you blokes
just a hair under, though.
That's Richard money there. That's not my money.
That's just my base comp.
Got it. Yeah.
And so Erin Burnett, another one, she's not up till next year, around $5 million. But this is something we're seeing playing out across the industry. It's not just at CNN. We're seeing it playing out at NBC, where Hoda Kotb is leaving to spend more time with her family. And we know that she was told to take a haircut from the $20 million she is on. And we also see that playing out at CBS with Norah O'Donnell stepping away from the anchor desk. But Mark Thompson really, as one source points out to me, these aren't going to be haircuts. For some people, they're going to be beheadings. And it's really going to hit not just the top talent that we see on air every evening. It's going to hit a lot of correspondents who are on sort of, 500K, 600K, 700K, who pop up, when there are
working class.
The working class, exactly.
Barely.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Barely scraping by at 600K.
You can hear that sound of the violin playing. But, for those people who, aren't on as much and are earning, big bucks, they're certainly going to be in line for a haircut or may even be leaving the network.
Yeah, and you also, the anchor producers coming back more in the vein here, where I think they're expecting more of talent, Lachlan, where it's not just come on and read the copy and do that. They want you to do things like writing and write your own copy. Kind of the Aaron Altman.
Isn't that a novel reproach to journalism?
It is.
You have to actually write your own story as opposed to leave your producer. I mean, that was one of the things that really fascinated me in the reporting is that a couple of sources were like, look, there's correspondents here who don't even write their own scripts. They leave it to a producer. And for 4 minutes of TV, you have what they call two PJs who are photojournalists, essentially cameramen. You have a producer and you have the correspondent who are, producing, just under 4 minutes of television. Now that's going to change dramatically under Mark Thompson. You're going to have a scenario where that correspondent is going to be asked not just to do a live shot, not just to do a package, but also to film, a couple of clips for YouTube and also bang out a 300-word story for the web.
Wow.
I mean, aren't there labor laws?
Yeah, but it's apparently not in the news business. This is all very like broadcast news, or like if you're Aaron Altman, like the voice of Aaron Altman in my head from Albert Brooks from the movie, the economical anchors and things along those lines. But, David, how many big anchors do you need anymore at CNN? And what, the variety of talent here seems to be shifting.
Yeah, I have to admit, I couldn't. John Berman could be sitting 5 feet from me. I couldn't tell you who he was.
Probably the same. No, honestly. Yeah.
Good for him.
Right.
I'm a full employment journalism guy, but good luck.
That's the thing, Lachlan. I worked for newspapers and then magazines and noticed and then websites. And then there's been a certain trajectory for everyone in the news business. Are these folks aware that maybe they're not immune to that and maybe looked at who the ads on CNN are targeted to?
I think they're slowly waking up to how dramatically this business is changing and how quickly it is changing, that all of the broadcast networks are hemorrhaging money. And these news divisions, which were once very much well-resourced and top talent were paid 8 figures, those days are long gone. And I think we started to see that initially with Matt Lauer, when Lauer was whacked because of Me Too, and he was on 20 million, and then he was replaced overnight by a female doubleheader. The ratings didn't really change. And, we've seen that time and time again, whether it's Megyn Kelly or Shep Smith, these big anchors come in on big money. They don't move the needle and they're gone in the next day and someone else replaces them that doesn't have as big a profile, but can hold the ratings, if not improve them. The other really interesting thing I picked up on, gents, is that under Mark Thompson, he wants to see more of sort of the Vice type storytelling. So he has had discussions with Josh Triangle, who was the executive who launched Vice News Tonight. They've appointed 3 new correspondents who will come from Vice. And Thompson has made remarks to people in meetings that the clips that they do on digital, the news gathering that they do on digital actually works well on TV. But when they try and put a TV package, one of those 2-minute, 30-minute packages on digital, it doesn't translate. So that's going to be a big shakeup to watch as well.
Mark, and I'm curious. I looked this up. So Vice News Tonight, I think its peak was about 500,000 viewers, and that was with the mega viral Charlottesville, white supremacist rally episode. Do you think that kind of content can bring even those kind of numbers in the mid 2020s to cable television? That just seems unrealistic, doesn't it?
I think he's not even looking at cable TV for this. I think he's solely focused on digital and how do you make that paywall work? They've launched a paywall. It's $4 a month, $30 a year. I think what Mark Thompson is thinking about is how do I monetize this website? And if I can have compelling content on the site.
And by that, you mean video.
Correct.
Video
Like
content,
you think
yeah.
that's original video. Okay.
Correct. Original video. And then also, I think what he wants to do is have verticals around strong personalities. So, for instance, Sanjay Gupta and medical advice and medical columns, and then try and monetize that. Now, that's going to be a really uphill battle, I reckon. He had success at the Times and he had success across the pond at the BBC, as people remind everyone who's writing about CNN. But again, to remind people, the journalism that the Times produces and the Beeb is vastly different and distinct than what you see on CNN.
And look, again, Thompson did an amazing job in turning around the Times, but basically did it by turning it into a lifestyle brand, where it's really about the cooking app and the gaming app. And the news is nice to have and not really what, was sort of the primary sell. I mean, it certainly wouldn't have gotten to 10 million subs just off of the news product. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true.
Correct. And again, I would be watching this space. I think he's going to try and replicate that by having a wellness vertical and having a face on TV that then translates to digital, having a medical vertical and leaning into someone like Sanjay Gupta, having a vertical on travel. And he's going to try and replicate that same model. Now, will people pay for CNN.com? Would you blokes pay for CNN.com?
Honestly,
right now,
no.
I wouldn't.
All well and good, a wellness vertical and all this stuff, but there's a lot of wellness websites online.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot. There are a whole lot. And a lot of wellness influencers who have big followings.
They didn't bring wellness to the internet. And all these places, having lived through this, always start with, well, we're the CNN. So our wellness. Is there any evidence that there's a person under 80 who doesn't have a family member employed in the news business, cares anything about the CNN brand or wanting it to extend or guide them in any part of their interests?
I think that's why he's under the cosh. It's trying to make it relevant again, whether it's by changing the storytelling format with the Vice stuff I was alluding to earlier, or bringing in new faces and new verticals. As I said, I really think it's going to be an uphill battle for him.
Yeah, when he was at the Times, the New York Times, you always paid for the Times. Like that was a subscription. It was a print subscription, but you paid to get it. It wasn't, and then so the natural transition to a digital subscription, while was a big move at the time and really paid off, in spades here over the past, 10 to 15 years in saving that company and putting it where it is. I mean, you pay for CNN as part of your cable bill, but you don't pay specifically for CNN. The brand DNA of that is, I would say, breaking news, and it's free with my cable subscription or in any airport I go to across the world. But to all of a sudden put it into a digital space where you're asking for, have the tin cup out for $4 a month. That, and to Rich's point, it's, anybody who's watching it is, the median age of CNN was 67 years old earlier this year. It's just not that demographic.
That is younger than
That is
than their
younger
rivals.
than Fox News, which was 69, and MSNBC, which takes the cake at 70. But this is the kind of customer who, to Richard's point, is watching this network at this point. So that's the brand equity you have. Does CNN even have a brand equity with anyone who's 30 years old?
And he's going to have to establish that by bringing in new faces and new verticals and new types of storytelling. And the difference is, as you alluded to, people were used to paying for the Times in print. People don't appreciate that as part of their cable bill, they're paying 50 cents a cycle for CNN. They don't acknowledge that. So that's totally changing, the way people think. And that's going to take a while. That's going to take a long time.
That's a big, tall order, I think, that's out there for him. I mean, look, he as I said, has experience with this. And as David said, seen diversification has helped out. And, look, things like, Pat McAfee going on ESPN. Is there a way to kind of bring digital talent into CNN to make it, again, a younger,
there's a
more
lot of cable talent, building businesses on YouTube and Instagram, Sagaran Jetty and Crystal Ball, Jessica Yellen, Mehdi Hassan most recently, can you sort of federate it back?
It's not like the internet doesn't know that Sanjay Gupta and Caitlin Collins and Jake Tapper exist. So it's not like we're going to bring them to the internet and whatever following they have right now, that's their following on the internet. And more exposure to the internet doesn't change it. So if you want people that will have a bigger following online, maybe starting with people who have a bigger following online would be where I would start.
Yeah, the Pat McAfee of it all. Yeah, exactly. People who are organic to that, not the other way around. But, Lachlan, we'll note it's interesting. I mean, just going back in my mind here, look, these networks still have a lot of exposure and a lot of pull. I mean, when, Don Lemon left, Don Lemon's experience online has not been great. Tucker Carlson, by all accounts, nowhere near what the audience he was getting on Fox News. You can go back to Glenn Beck. You can go to Bill O'Reilly. They fell off the face of the earth, essentially, when they left these platforms. I mean, Megyn Kelly has finally kind of found her way on the kind of right-wing, MAGA side of it a bit to a degree, but she went into the oblivion when she left NBC or got fired from ABC News. So, there is something to it. I know it's a very old school way of thinking, but there is something to these brands that, in terms of the talent part of it, that still matters, I think.
I think the platforms really do have the leverage here, and I think that the agents are saying to their talent, "Look, if you're re-upped on the same amount, that's good news.
That's a win
because everyone else is going to be taking a haircut here, and if not, they're going to be losing their jobs. And I think that my reporting demonstrated that you're going to see in the new year a real bloodbath as people are fearing at CNN, and you're going to see a lot of people losing their jobs. There's a lot of managerial double up. There's a division between linear and digital.
Right. You talk about that a lot in the piece.
The Virginia Mosley, who runs linear, and this Alex McCallum, who is a Mark Thompson hire, who he's brought in. You're going to see a bit of a power play, I reckon, go on between those two for turf. And you're going to see a lot of mid-level people lose their jobs. But I think for the talent, it is really a day of reckoning that those big paydays are over.
Yeah. And David, to your point, there is a business out there beyond this, but it's a lot of work. This is a lot of entrepreneurialism. The people you mentioned, it's not like, oh, you're going to come, we're going to hire you to do the job you were doing. It's like, yes, you can be doing this, but online, there's a lot more muscle that needs to be there that many of these people may not have, David.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And like you said, the jury's out on a lot of the cable expats, the recent cable expats. But yeah, and I think you just have to, I think we all just sort of have to accept that, like, whatever bubble that gave you whatever cachet, it's pretty small as it was. And, it's like the, green room, and, in whatever network, and, a handful of people on Capitol Hill and whatever. Like, this stuff's just not, like, in reality, everyone just has their own little following, and that's how it works. So, like, you're just getting introduced to that reality.
You look at Chris Cuomo, you look at Don Lemon, you look at some of these guys who back in the day, they were commanding several $1 million. And now, like, does anyone tune into News Nation to see Chris Cuomo? Is anyone? Yeah. I just think you're going to see a lot of these top talent having to accept that they're going to take a haircut.
Welcome to the cable TV business, everybody. You do also zoom out a little bit here to, the CNN for sale rumors kind of swatted down by everybody you talk to there. And, look, I don't think Mark Thompson came here to tidy up the ship for a sale. I don't think that would be of that much interest to him, Lachlan. So I kind of take that at face value. What was your take on that one?
Yeah, I think if the time to sell was a year ago.
Yes, that too. Yeah, exactly. Who's paying WBD the price that they want for it? Like,
they really missed that boat. I mean, seriously, they've strenuously denied it, and I do believe those denials. I mean, the thing is probably halved in value, over the course of the last bit. So yeah, I mean, it's up to Mark Thompson now to try and
to figure it out here.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, note the network has lost about 12 million subscribers in the past 3 years alone due to cord cuttings, down to about 68 million. And, by all accounts this year, the cable bundle lost about another 4 million subscribers in the first half of this year alone. We're going to get the fresh numbers here for Q3 over the next couple of weeks. So, the wick is burning here, Lachlan. This is not something that Thompson has a lot of time to figure out here. That ship has said, they've waited way too long to do whatever they're doing here at this point.
Last month, Fox rated 2.5 million, MSNBC 1.4 million, CNN was down to about 850K. Now that is, during a period where there's a gift from the news gods. We have,
an election.
I mean, we have two wars going on. We have a hurricane.
Not just an election, but like an election with several unprecedented events.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
And this is the time that they should be rating their socks off, and they're just not. And so, yes, Thompson is up against the clock to try and figure this out.
All right. Well, Richard, any final words of hope for CNN? Do you see any bright spots here? Come on, Richard, be your beacon of light that you love to be here.
Given the average age and everything, I would just say this cantankerous, dissatisfied audience of yours, you're not going to have to worry about them very much longer.
There's some breaking news from Mark Thompson.
Very, very reassuring. That's very, Richard. Thank you.
We can take a look at the actuarial tables and give you some precise numbers on that if you like.
You can time that out pretty well. Well, we'll see. They have CNN on Max. They've transitioned that to streaming. I don't think a lot of people talk about that, and they've put no usage numbers out there. David, maybe they put a CNN feed as part of this subscription for $4 to kind of, again, how do you transition this linear business, David, to a digital future?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the answer. I think it's closer to what Lachlan was saying of doing, original video clips. But
yeah. In terms of getting people to pay for it, that's the star is the feed. So if something's happened in the world, people still have that CNN itch. But you can read all about that over at theankler.com, a great read from Lachlan. You can also check out a couple of other new reads this week. Elaine has a new Serious Business column looking at what the folks at Apple TV are buying these days. Still one of Hollywood's most prolific TV series buyers out there. They still are dropping series at a pretty prolific rate this year, so she's some good insight into what they're looking for, David.
The money is being saved on the marketing, but
right, the money is saved, but they're still, exactly. But they still put a lot of things in production, that's for sure. And Ashley Collins has a good Dealmakers column looking around for all that fire hose of Saudi money that was just here a minute ago. Couldn't have sworn in Hollywood it went somewhere, but what happened to that? She looks into the very chaotic relationship that the town has had with the Middle East oil money there in recent years, up and down, and where it lies here as 2024 rounds out. Again, all that over at theankler.com. Lachlan, great to have you on the pod, and sure we'll have you on again soon.
Cheers, cases.
Okay, coming up next, another sector of the WBD kingdom made news this week as the Turner Networks made their next salvo for a plan for a life without the NBA, even though they're, of course, very confident the lawsuit will go their way. And we'll dive into some Netflix numbers, which paint a larger picture, or really a question mark, over an area of the business that's been attracting and continues to attract a lot of money and hype, and that's always a healthy sign. So we'll be back in a moment to dive into all that.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
Hi, I'm Eric Barmack, and I'm a working producer, and I write the Real AI newsletter for The Ankler. Real AI is your destination to understand the truth about AI and entertainment, who's using it, how they're using it, and the technological change already here in the industry. I care about AI because it's changed the way I run my own business and even pitch and sell shows. I've used AI for script coverage, to help my team brainstorm concepts, and even to come up with pitch decks. Real AI will also tell you more about the fast-moving technology the studios and streamers are tracking and how that will impact your job both today and tomorrow. I believe being informed is the only way to face the new frontier right here at our doorstep, which I believe can help foster the best in our human creativity, something that can never be replaced. Real AI comes out every other Tuesday as part of a paid subscription to The Ankler, so please join me by subscribing at theankler.com today.
All right, elsewhere on the WBD lot this week, Richard, the NBA season is starting next week. Where are you sitting for the Lakers game? What row you got?
I'm going to be in the outfield this time.
Oh, yeah, got some bleacher seats. Okay,
closer to the hot dog stand.
Listen, you're no dummy. You know where the action is at the basketball game. That's exactly right, Richard. I look forward to your report. But at least WBD made another attempt to fill its NBA-sized hole that it's going to face on the schedule on the Turner Networks, potentially in about a year's time. At which point, in about a year from now, the NBA will essentially be on 6 days a week, which is kind of...
It's one less day than Richard would prefer, but sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, late night TV is down to 4, NBA is up to 6. There's your snapshot of where the entertainment business is these days. They made a deal to air games from a new 3-on-3 women's basketball league founded by a couple of WNBA players. That's called Unrivaled. Games are going to air on TNT, truTV, and of course stream on Max. That's 3 nights a week from mid-January to mid-March. WBD also took an undisclosed minority stake in the league. No word on what WBD is paying for these rights or any of the money involved here. But you can add that on to a new indoor golf league from Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy called TGL. That's also launching in early January. That one on ESPN once a week.
We're really in a golden age of made-up sports, aren't we, Sean?
We are really just racking them up here. That's in addition to our usual weekly NBA and NHL games. Pickleball, yeah, that deal hasn't quite made the prime time yet. But this is, of course, still in addition to WWE 3 times a week, UFC on weekends. And David, is this becoming...
I don't know how you fit it all into your schedule, Richard.
That's the question here. I laid out the schedule for 2026, assuming these new leagues, survive the first year and come back in January. And it's just, to say that they're stretching the sports fan a little thin, David, I don't think that's hyperbole. What's your take on all this mind-numbing action at this point?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I really think that it's just a relatively gimlet-eyed look. It's not for any love of, you know what I really love is I love 3-on-3 women's basketball. It's, it's a sport. It's a $71 billion market in the United States alone. And I didn't look up a global figure, but whatever. And it feels like a growth area. So I think people are just like, hey,
what if we did this?
We bolt onto this thing to try to grow it because this is growing and we feel like, the other thing, the entertainment business is not growing. So, here we are.
Yeah, and you also have, NBA will be on NBC in 2 nights of primetime a year from now. And next October, you're going to be seeing your TV will be riddled with NBA on NBC on Sunday night and Tuesday night, twice a week there, Richard.
And the number of shows that I was going through the announcements the last few days, and the number of shows that are sports related or
sports adjacent, we call it, Richard. Yes.
Because what are you going to do in the time when you're not watching the sports? You're going to watch sports related content, of course. I mean, this is just common sense, Richard.
Why do we need books or movies anymore? Why do we need painting or sunsets or restaurants?
Wow, there we go. Well, Richard, restaurants. But
almost did a spit take on the podcast. So yeah.
David's recovering. But yes, no, it's this mythical sports fan that's out there that just watches everything.
Yeah, the mythical sport. The 60 million people who aren't already cable subscribers who are also apparently going to join this revolution. Yeah, it's all a bubble, and it's just another of a series of basically the entire economy runs on bubbles, and this is another one, right? AI, private credit, whatever, horror movies are a bubble, whatever, fill in the blank, anything that seems whatever, it will get overdone to death, and now it's sports.
It just feels like we're on the rising time. Having come out of a bubble, I think the Hollywood's pretty familiar with what the other side of it looks like. And it feels like we're back in
People love forgetting, though.
Different this time.
Oh, yes. Those are the most famous words is right. This time it's different.
This time it's different. Yeah, exactly. This is just giving me a lot of 2019 vibes here in Hollywood at this point of just like, everybody wants this stuff. 600 shows. People just, of course they want that.
The one thing I will say on this is that at least, obviously NBA, whatever, is very expensive, and the people who bought it, Disney and Comcast, whatever, are going to be lucky to make money on those deals. But, a lot of this stuff has to be pretty cheap. So, and it seems... like that at least sort of is in their favor. Like, again, it feels like an accountant's decision, not out of some grand love for any of these things.
Yeah, there is, there's a business in a lot of things. For the right price, there's a business in a lot of things. It's more just this notion that this is a burgeoning thing that everybody wants to watch, and there's big appetite out for this stuff. And, I looked at our friends at Netflix. Every week, they give us the data from their most popular TV shows and films across the globe. They're the ones who actually tell us what's going on. I analyze the film chart every week on Tuesdays in the Wake Up. But if you track it regularly, it does tell you a good amount of information about what works on the platform, which is the largest streaming platform in the world. Richard, who knew the Menendez brothers were so popular, but apparently huge fascination there. Another fun fact this week, the 2018 movie The Predator, Richard, was the 4th most popular film on Netflix in the world. It wasn't even streaming in the U.S., and that's how popular. They just put The Predator on, Richard, from 2018, and lo and behold, people loved it. So no marketing campaign, no nothing. So for all the haters out there, there's some money in that library, Richard, I will say. For everybody tells you there's not.
Yeah, once you have like what percent of the screens in the world just looking for stuff on you all the time, and you've established yourself as come to us. We'll
give you
something
you know and like, and there's value in having those things and owning those things, Richard. Which a lot of the streamers don't own those. The studios own those.
Yeah, Netflix seemed to learn this week that putting together like 3 quarterbacks, that formula is not repeatable ad infinitum. And right now that we're on the copy of the copy with the basketball starting 5, that very few people care.
Yeah, so I was curious to see they just released this big NBA series, which is a Drive to Survive style series. This is called Starting 5. The NFL had a quarterback series last year. They had a receivers series this summer, David. So this is their version of that. Features LeBron James, the biggest name in basketball. Features Jason Tatum, who won the NBA championship last season.
But, to Richard's point, when we were talking about CNN, like, we have a lot of LeBron content, and Jason Tatum has a popular podcast. Like now I need a show about it too.
Every NBA star is a media brand, and so what on there, the first 5 days of viewing, the first week, the show didn't make the top 10 globally, didn't make the top 10 in the U.S. either. And this is, essentially the number 2 sport in America. It prides itself, David, on being the most global sports. I think, in America, arguable, you can kind of debate that, but it was a no-show. We'll see what, week 2 does there, but not great for this heralded series in a genre that everybody's hyping, and as you said, how many millions of dollars they spent on it.
But again, this is not Bridgerton money. I mean, so I feel like we grade these things like they're all the same, but this disappointing, quote unquote, comparatively to anything that they spent real money on, I think it's not really fair.
Yeah, for the right budget, these things can work. It's just a matter of the sense that everybody wants to watch sport. There's so much opportunity in sports adjacent content that everybody wants to watch this. And I don't know that the numbers are bearing that out. You had Receiver, the NFL series, 1 week on the chart and done this summer on Netflix. Full Swing, the golf series, was down 50% versus the first season. The Breakpoint tennis show was canceled. They have an Untold documentary series. Only one of them.
They're all the same. It's the same.
Well, you're getting to be exactly.
It's the same formula. How many times can you run the same play before people figure it out?
Yeah, and I think we've come to that point where the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan docuseries, and like Drive to Survive from F1. That's like the Friends in The Office, David, of like sports documentaries. That these two worked, and they made 20 copies, all of which are not anywhere near the results of the 2 hits. It feels very similar, David, to Hollywood in a sense here. What's going on in sports right now?
Yeah, again, everything worth doing is worth overdoing. That seems to be the abiding motto, right?
Right. Yeah, and there's Beckham was a huge shit. Like the A-list stuff can work. When Patrick Mahomes was in the NFL quarterback series, a big hit. Simone Biles had a big documentary this summer in July when she was all over the news. Great. But the other stuff, there's just a sharp drop off from those projects, David, to everything else. The mass.
So what do you think it'll take, Richard? What do you think it'll take for people to sort of wake up and realize, like, oh, okay, like, this is over?
The next thing comes, and suddenly they want to see rom-coms or
we want 10 of those now,
or musicals or whatever. And if you're doing a lot of anything, most of it will fail.
Right. The more you up the volume. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't mean nothing will succeed, but if you are one of 2 shows in a rising genre, you have maybe a 50-50 chance of success. If you are one of 1,000 shows in a declining genre, your chances are much slower.
Yeah, it just feels we're at that cusp now. There's, just even the past 4 weeks, Lionel Messi announced he's doing a production company. Derek Jeter announced he's doing a production company. This is,
the guy who watches the parking lot outside the Forum will be pitching shows about himself.
Well, Bill is very talented in his defense. He definitely knows TV, so he's got a future there.
At this point, I would love to see a docuseries just about like selling the making and then the selling of the light up bracelets and necklaces and stuff, or whatever, pennants.
Wait, David, I'm sorry, David. Netflix is online too. They're buying that. They're good. They want to know. They want 6 episodes. Can you deliver it by June?
All right, well, then I gotta go. I gotta
go.
Man.
Get
to work on pre-production.
You pitch it, they buy it. That's all you got there. So anyway, we'll see how it is. You can look at all the numbers I broke down for yourself to see kind of what the audience is telling you about all this content over in the Wake Up this week. It does just feel like this Hollywood 2019 to 2022 era is kind of where we're at the sports content. So.
Also, they should warn them. My lobbyist advises me that my bill to ban sports from America is actually making a lot of progress. So,
is it? Okay.
Keep an eye on the legal situation.
Not while the Dodgers are still playing baseball, Richard. I don't know about that in Los Angeles. Might not pass in California. But anyway, over at the good old box office, are you ready to smile, Richard? You love to do that. Come on.
Yeah. One of these days.
One of these days, Richard. Now we're going to Smile 2. We have a sequel, Richard, coming to theaters after Terrifier 3 surprised everybody, or maybe surprise is probably the right word. Last weekend, certainly taking the top slot there, doing a huge
surprise,
number.
grossed everybody out.
Made people throwing up in the theaters. Whatever. They got you covered across the board there, which was nice. Nice for a change. So. Finally, a family film in October, which is fantastic. As our pal the Joker is going to fade from theaters. Unfortunately, our friends at IMAX booked it for 3 weekends, so still going to be playing the IMAX theaters this weekend. So that is what it is. Then, Richard, we get this kind of, little prestige picture part 2 coming in. We got Conclave, Real Pain, Juror number 2, the Zemeckis film here. Kind of in that election before and after weekend, which they're kind of avoiding like the plague with wide releases before the holiday season kicks in there, Richard. So
yeah. Anything you like? What are you excited about? I mean, obviously you saw some of this at Toronto.
Yeah. Of those, I've seen Real Pain, which is a very interesting movie. I liked it a lot. It's the most Jesse Eisenberg-esque movie. It's like pure Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Given that it was starring and written and directed by him, and but a very attention-getting performance by Kieran Culkin also. Is going to be very memeable also.
Oh, okay.
That's good news for it, probably.
I'm excited for Conclave, but have not seen it yet. So
yeah. I'm looking forward to that in Juror number 2. So again, over the next, that's 25th and the first weekend in November there, those films start rolling out. Before, the big holiday season starts mid-November there, Richard. So the boom times will return once election season is over, once the advertising rates come back down for all the ad buys. But good to have some fresh energy out there and keep the Oscar race going.
Once my Hulu ad tier is no longer polluted by my local congressional race, but yes, that'll be exciting.
Can you imagine the day when you don't turn on your television or your streaming app and you don't have political ads in there? It's going to be
Well, the farm ads can come back. So that's
exactly. Now we get the farmer ads back. Exactly. Speaking of prestige season, just a note here, the Ankler crew is going to be in full effect in Jersey. And not just me this time, David. We're doing a series of panels there at the Montclair Film Festival. Katie Rich is going to be there this weekend, and Ashley Collins and I will be doing respective panels on October 26th. So come hang out with us over there in Montclair, New Jersey, and North Jersey. The Fest has some pretty good movies there, too. They have Enora, The Unstoppable, the J-Lo movie, the new Mike Leigh movie, Hard Truths, which I hear is great, and some other films there. Plus, John Bon Jovi's coming, so, everything comes full circle in Jersey. We can't have any Jersey festival without
a local icon.
They got me and Bon Jovi, David. Bookending with me and Bon Jovi, so that's really the two draws there from the Jersey hometown crew there. So.
We're not even going to say which one is one and which one is two.
It's not
we
a
all
contest.
know the answer.
Not a contest.
Everyone on this podcast knows the answer.
Everybody knows it, exactly.
Sean, you getting your high notes ready if you get if you get called on the stage for living on a prayer? Or
I think I only have low notes across the board, Richard, on every sense of the word, unfortunately. So
living on a prayer. That's tough.
We got a serenade. We got a Richard serenade.
Got a little Bon Jovi
okay,
now.
Everybody drink.
All right. We're moving into the 80s now. I like it. Anyway, you can check out the times and info there. That's montclairfilm.org for the details. And as always, go to theankler.com here to sign up for the newsletters and podcasts. Just enter the old email address on the site and you're good to go. Reach us here at the podcast anytime at podcasts@theankler.com and follow on the socials at The Ankler on your favorite social platform. David and Richard, a pleasure to see you as always. And thanks to Lachlan, of course, for joining as well. And a big thanks to you for listening. We'll see you next time.